What's interesting about design today is that there's a greater understanding, greater respect on both sides.
It's a great time to study design right now because design is important to people in the world.
From both the general public and the design community itself.
And now the opportunities are just much greater. The opportunities for collaboration with architects, with scientists. The way in which designers now work in the world is different. There's a larger array of opportunities for designers.
And that's actually how and why I got involved in mechanical engineering and then industrial design and then finally anthropology, because of a weakness that I sort of felt within the way design was traditionally taught.
I went to Glasgow School of Art in Scotland, which is very similar to the school here, and I ended up in the one department that was truly transdisciplinary. And so my experience at school was very much where, as an artist, you were able to allow your ideas to flow through various media and various methods, and I found that that was the right process for me.
At this school, this department, we're bringing that sense of understanding of culture and society into the design process, where it's less of design in a vacuum, but very much informed by the physical context, cultural context, individual context that these designed objects would eventually or later exist in.
Artists ask questions. Artists ask probably some of the best questions, and as an artist, the way in which you might frame that question, or the way in which that question is put out into the world, is through the form of art. And being in the art school, we're trying to parallel that activity, and so we're asking our designers to think in very similar ways, to ask questions, to put design out in the world, that maybe that design also asks questions as well as also solving problems.
For me, what's really exciting about the program here is that it's an architecture, interior architecture, and designed objects program. So it's not just a designed objects or an industrial design program. That our studios are adjacent to these other disciplines, and the transdisciplinary nature of the education here is really a tremendous force, and really a driving force. And it's really exciting to be around people who are doing work that's similar in some ways, but also very, very different, that allows you to approach problems differently, think differently.
Within our design programs here, the architecture students, the interior architecture students, and the designed objects students, each semester they get to take one elective somewhere else in the school, which is really a pretty exciting opportunity for most of the design students.
And the facilities as well, what's nice about the new facilities that we have here is that the making facilities are basically right at our fingertips. Where across the hall is the wood fabrication studio, where we have vacuum forming across the hall from there, and sort of a casting facility as well, and the computer numerically controlled CNC milling machine, as well as our laser cutting and the sort of the digital output center with 3D output. So all of that is right here along the hallway, and it's really great for students to be able to move from their studio and the classroom and right across to a making facility.
I think it's important when you're a designer to be amongst design. I think it's very inspiring to be in a city where interesting design is happening now and has happened for many years.
The facility itself is very inspiring. I mean, to be able to, you're sitting in our shop and looking out across the cityscape of Chicago, and in some of the rooms where you can see this sort of a glimpse of the Millennium Park.
Increasingly, there's really interesting objects at the scale of public objects. Like the Bean in Millennium Park is a really interesting object to look at from a design perspective. But we have great stores, we have great shopping, and although that may seem a little frivolous, it's really important that if we're talking about cell phones, that students can walk down a Michigan Avenue and look at some of the hottest, best on-the-market objects. And so for me, being in a city, it's just like a big playground for designers to go and to look and to explore and to hands-on touch these objects that they're thinking about.
The building itself is located right at the center, the heart of Chicago, at the 00 street mark of Chicago, and we're on the top floor of the building. So it's really a fantastic place to sort of to study design in the heart of the city and sort of in this very important building.
Everyone knows the names of designers now, which is a very new phenomena. And so I think it's interesting that as a designer, the possibilities for what you might work on are growing. It used to be as a product designer or an industrial designer, your job was to problem solve, was basically to solve the problems that were given to you by a manufacturer or by an engineer.
So the types of projects that the students are working on in the studio this semester, they sort of run a huge gamut and don't necessarily fall into existing categories.
We're a transdisciplinary school. Those students can focus on a very particular discipline or a set of methods. Most students actually explore multiple areas in the school. The opportunity for the students who are our design students to participate in the kinds of processes, the material studies, the ideas and the issues that are being considered throughout the art school means that they bring those ideas and those issues and those materials back into the design studio, which again creates an opportunity for students to design their education to a certain aspect.
The environment of the art school offers this sort of wonderful environment for experimentation, which is, I think, really important as we start to move forward in design and really start to question what design can be in the world.